XOXO Gossip Girl. No one did chaos, scandal, and emotionally unhinged rich teenagers quite like the TV show Gossip Girl. And while the show gave us 6 seasons of iconic moments, from limo hookups to literal attempted murder, many affairs, not all episodes are created equal of this show. So today, I am going to be breaking down the top 10 best Gossip Girl episodes of all time. The ones that delivered the drama, shifted storylines, and quite frankly, changed lives. And yes, I will be giving you full recaps of each of these incredibly curated 10 episodes. So if you haven't watched, spoilers ahead, of course. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan and this is Jordan is Obsessed. And this channel is a mix of everything that I'm watching, reading, and listening to right now with a little bit of lifestyle sprinkled in there. So if any of that sounds appealing, then definitely please subscribe. And I am so excited for this video. First things first, I mean, obviously with my outfit right now, I am channeling Ms. Blair Waldorf, who is one of my, to this day, #1 style icons. However, I'm dying in this blazer. This was just an intro situation. The blazer is coming off. I can't do it anymore. So yeah, I can't do the blazer anymore. Even the long sleeves is killing me. So anyway, I committed to it for the intro and there you have it. So what makes me qualified to deliver you the 10 best episodes of Gossip Girl of all time? Well, this is my favorite show ever. This is my favorite show ever. I love Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl is my #1 show of all time. I have rewatched Gossip Girl so many times that I can practically recite the show from memory. I have rewatched it over and over and over again. It's one of my comfort shows. And of course, over the course of my rewatches, I have my favorite episodes that I like to revisit time and time again. The other thing that I will say is that, like, I think that when there is a good episode, they usually batch together. Like, there'll be a good run of episodes because there's just really good storylines happening. So some of these episodes are back to back because the storylines occurring are just so juicy. So you will notice a pattern with some of these episodes. Anyway, let's start at number 10. And that is going to be episode 1, season 1, the pilot. Now, I feel like this is really a great pilot. This pilot really showcases the show and launches the show in such an amazing way. We open on Manhattan's Upper East Side, where reputation is everything, secrets are currency. And the most powerful voice isn't a person, it's a blog, Gossip Girl. And this episode opens with Serena van der Woodsen coming back. Serena van der Woodsen is back and no one knows why. The elusive Serena van der Woodsen spotted Serena van der Woodsen at Central Station.
Hey, Upper East Siders, Gossip Girl here. Spotted at Grand Central, bags in hand, Serena van der Woodsen.
And of course, her return is revealed the way that all major life events in this universe are revealed, and that is via a Gossip Girl blast that quickly throws the entire social ecosystem into chaos. We're introduced to the Upper East Siders at a soiree that is occurring at Ms. Blair Waldorf's house. And we immediately understand that these people operate in a different ballpark of wealth. As news of Serena's return circulates the party, Blair Waldorf, Serena's best friend, is completely blindsided because a year earlier, Serena just up and left with no explanation really and went to boarding school. So their friendship is already fragile, layered with jealousy, unresolved betrayal, and Serena's return threatens everything that Blair has carefully controlled in Serena's absence because Blair is the queen bee. Blair then finds her boyfriend, Nate Archibald, and drags him into a room to lose her virginity. So basically, she hears that Serena, her frenemy, is back, and she decides that then and there at this soiree at her house is when she's gonna lose her virginity to Nate. So he goes along with it until someone says through the door, "Oh, Serena's back," and Nate is suddenly like, ends the situation that's occurring. Like, his girlfriend is on top of him and he's just like, get off me. Serena's here. Clearly so eager to see Serena. I'd be so upset if I was Blair.
Serena, darling. Oh. Hi.
Serena.
And we learn that Serena has come back from boarding school because her brother Eric tried to end his life. As Serena reintegrates into Constance Billard, the private school that they all go to, it becomes clear that she is very different from the Serena that left for boarding school. So we get the vibe that Serena used to be a real party girl, a real wild child, and she's come back being a lot more tame and low key and really seems to want to be mature and kind of forget her party girl ways. But no one else is really ready to let her forget who she used to be. We are also introduced to the Humphreys. So we have Dan Humphrey, who is the ultimate outsider from Brooklyn, watching this world from a distance. We also meet Jenny Humphrey, who is Dan's little sister and who is so eager to break in with Blair's clique. She will essentially do anything to get on Blair's good side and become one of Blair's minions. So basically, she has done all of the calligraphy for the invites of one of Blair's parties, which is the Kiss on the Lips party. Meanwhile, Nate Archibald, Blair's boyfriend, is caught between loyalty and guilt because we learn that Nate and Serena actually slept together the year before at the Shepherd wedding before Serena went to boarding school. The boyfriend and the best friend, Serena, like that is crazy. So she literally slept with her best friend's boyfriend, took his virginity, and went to boarding school. We're also introduced to Chuck, of course, and Chuck is absolutely vile in this episode. Like, he is so disgusting, and he essentially tries to SA Serena in the kitchen of the hotel that he owns, because basically Serena is living there because their house is being redone or their apartment is being redone, so she's living at the hotel that Chuck's dad owns, and he literally tries to assault her in the kitchen because he's disgusting. Then on her way out, Serena actually runs into Dan, who was there to try and run into Serena because Dan's had a crush on Serena forever. Anyway, this all eventuates in Serena and Dan going on a date. So instead of going to this kiss on the lips party that Blair is throwing because Serena is not invited because she came back so suddenly, she goes on a date with Dan. However, while she's on this date with Dan, Jenny is texting Dan because Jenny's at this party because she did the invites in exchange for an invite to the party. And she's texting Dan and she's like, help, SOS, I have a situation with Chuck. And Dan tells Serena what's going on, and Serena's like, we need to get to that party immediately, like just after her experience with Chuck. So thankfully, Dan and Serena get to the kiss on the lips party in the nick of time to literally prevent Chuck from assaulting a 15-year-old Jenny or 14-year-old Jenny. I think Jenny is 14 in this episode. Chuck is just disgusting, like absolutely vile. And I think from watching this pilot episode, it is clear that they did not anticipate Chuck playing such a key role in the series. And I will say, I've read the books as well, and Chuck is definitely not really a main character in the books. He's more of a side character. So I think that they were willing to kind of assassinate his character, not realizing that he would become so integral to the show later on. By the end of this episode, we understand everything. We understand the power dynamics, the relationships, the secrets, the Gossip Girl element, and most importantly, that Gossip Girl is watching everything. This episode just perfectly sets up the world, the characters, the stakes, and instantly pulls you into a universe where no secret stays hidden. I love this episode. Coming in at number 9, we have Season 6, Episode 10, the finale of the entire series, New York, I Love You, XOXO. So we're going from the pilot episode all the way to the series finale. Now, I know that the opinion of the series finale is quite mixed. I personally like it. Like, I think in terms of finales, it did what it was meant to do. It was a satisfying wrap-up of the story. I was satisfied with it. The episode picks up immediately following the fall and death of Bart Bass. Yes, he falls from a rooftop. It's all very ominous and soapy and so crazy, but yeah, Bart Bass falls off the rooftop after a confrontation with Chuck. It's completely ridiculous, but whatever. I still love it. Chuck and Blair flee the scene. Even though Chuck didn't push him, Chuck also didn't help him back. So Chuck is now, of course, a person of interest in his father's death. So in order for Chuck and Blair to protect themselves, because they are now essentially fugitives, Jack Bass, who is Chuck's uncle, actually recommends that they get married for spousal privilege. Now, Blair has been wearing an engagement ring around her neck for the entire season, but she hasn't put the engagement ring on because, you know, they couldn't be together. But of course, for spousal privilege, they are going to get married. And so Chuck essentially asks Blair to marry him then and there, and she, of course, says yes. So in the middle of all of this chaos, they get married. At the same time, Serena discovers an ominous tell-all chapter that Dan wrote about Gossip Girl. So essentially, Dan and Serena have broken up. Dan tries to explain himself. Serena's not having a bar of it because Dan's been acting like a prick. And he slips the final chapter of his kind of exposing novel. I don't know, it's not a novel because he releases it chapter by chapter, but he slips it into her suitcase as she's leaving because she's like, I need to get out, like I just need to leave. And she reads it on the plane just before takeoff, and because she's Serena van der Woodsen, she's like, no, don't take off, like I need to read this chapter. So she like very intently reads the chapter. We also see that Dan has now moved into his brand new building, and we find out that Dan has literally moved into the same building that Serena lives in. Like, that's all he wanted. He just wanted to live in that same building. Like, now that he's rich because he's like sold all of his chapters for his books, he just like wants to live in the Upper East Side in this fancy building. Whatever. Meanwhile, Nate is now finally free from Bart's control because Bart was blackmailing him over some fraud and embezzlement stuff or whatever, and he becomes determined to uncover who Gossip Girl is once and for all and share it on his media company called The Spectator. And basically, Dan, in a way, grants him his wish because Dan gives him a chapter and says, Nate, I want you to publish this on The Spectator. It is my final chapter. And basically, Dan and Nate were in a fight because previously Dan had sold his chapters to Vanity Fair, and that's really a dog move to Nate, who has his own media company. But Dan was like, no, you can have the final chapter. So Nate literally reads it, and then he hands it to Sage. We're not even going to discuss Sage. And he's like, literally, go back immediately, publish on The Spectator, publish it sentence by sentence if you have to. And Sage like runs to go and publish this new chapter that Dan has given Nate that Serena is also reading. So everything is now coming together for Chuck and Blair's wedding. Like, all of our main cast are running around trying to pull together this super last minute wedding for these two fugitives. Like, Eleanor is getting the dress for Blair, and I think Serena's getting flowers, and they're all kind of doing their parts, and they're all converging, running together to have this wedding, because even though they're like just doing a quick courthouse wedding, they still have this cute little wedding. I think it's at Central Park. I don't even know where they are, but yeah, they still want to have like a nice wedding. And Blair wears this gorgeous blue dress. I remember at the time being like super devo that she didn't wear a traditional wedding dress, but I guess it was like her second marriage technically. So, but the dress she wears is so beautiful, and they get married, and literally as they get married, the police are hunting them down because they are fugitives. And as this is happening, a Spectator blast goes out. Dan Humphrey is revealed as Gossip Girl.
The Upper East Side was like something from Fitzgerald. Teenagers acting like adults, adults acting like teenagers, guarding secrets, spreading gossip, all with the trappings of truly opulent wealth. If I wasn't born into this world, maybe I could write myself into it.
And suddenly everything makes sense, kind of. Dan explains that he created Gossip Girl as a way to write himself into a world that would never accept him. And apparently Jenny has known for a very, very long time that he was Gossip Girl. And honestly, there are so many plot holes with Dan being Gossip Girl, especially in season 1 and 2, I think, before they decided that Dan was going to be Gossip Girl. However, all in all, like, really, who are they going to choose? I mean, maybe they shouldn't have revealed who Gossip Girl was, but I feel like they had to. And I think all things considered, like, Dan was a decent choice. Like, sue me. Anyway, of course, Blair and Chuck, now that they're married, they can't testify against each other. They get released because there's no evidence, there's no witnesses. So they're released. Everything is fine. They all know that Dan is Gossip Girl now, and they're just like, what the heck? But then they're like, oh, well, you may have terrorized us and ruined our lives for the past 10 years, but Serena's like, it's kind of romantic. Sorry. Gossip Girl literally terrorized that I would not be forgiving nor forgetting. Anyway, we then get a 5-year time jump, and I love a 5-year time jump. I'm so glad they did a 5-year time jump. Serena and Dan are getting married. Hate her dress. I'm so sorry. I hate the gold dress. Chuck and Blair have a son called Henry, and he's so cute. Nate is running a media empire. He's still running The Spectator, and then he's being asked if he's going to be running for mayor. Of course, Mr. Politics. And the Upper East Side has not changed, because the final narration reminds us there will always be someone on the outside trying to get in. So this finale is definitely messy, dramatic, slightly unhinged, but it's a great ending for the series, I think. Moving on to number 8, and that is season 4, episode 8, Juliet Doesn't Live Here Anymore. The episode builds on Juliet's long-running scheme against Serena, and everything kind of comes crashing down in this episode. So Serena is seeing her professor Colin, kind of. I mean, they're not really seeing each other because he's her professor. They're trying to keep it PG while he's her professor. And I will say, I'm going to say, like, Colin is one of my favorite pairings for Serena. And I'm actually pissed off that this didn't really go much further than a couple of episodes, because I really like Colin for Serena. I mean, despite the whole professor-student situation, I just feel like compared to some of the other trash that Serena went on to date. Colin happens to be Juliet's cousin who is actually bankrolling her life. And Juliet has essentially been scheming to ruin Serena's life this whole season so far. So Serena and Colin are trying to get to know each other without crossing the line because, again, they are student and teacher. But Juliet knows about the two of them and is willing to do anything to take down Serena. That is until Nate, her ex-boyfriend, because Juliet and Nate were dating, he extends a bit of an olive branch to her and he's like, hey, like, let's catch up for coffee. And the reason they broke up is because Juliet was like lying about a bunch of stuff, but she is like, oh, yes, like, let's get coffee. But what she doesn't realize is that Nate and Vanessa are actually conspiring together because Juliet completely threw Vanessa under the bus for a different scheme. And so Vanessa is like, I just want to prove that she's crazy. And Nate's like, I want to know what she's lying about. So they scheme together. Nate is going to take Juliet for coffee and Vanessa is going to search Juliet's apartment because Nate basically rocks up to Juliet's apartment that he thought was her apartment to take back her stuff. And the doorman is like, no one called Juliet lives here. Like, Juliet does not live here. I don't know who you're talking about. And so he's like gobsmacked because he's like, what do you mean? Like, she brought me here. She told me this was her apartment. Vanessa finds out that Juliet actually lives in a really povo apartment. Like, she really just lied. She actually lives in a povo apartment. And while she's searching the apartment, she literally finds a photo on Juliet's computer of Colin and Serena kissing. And Vanessa feels vindicated because this proves that Serena was exchanging sex for grades, which is the scandal that Vanessa got wrapped up in that got her kind of ousted from the Upper East Side crew. Because like Vanessa is completely on the outs. Like everyone hates her because she tried to accuse Serena of this. / Juliet convinced everyone that I don't know. I can't remember. However, while at coffee with Nate, Juliet does confess to the realities of her life. And she's like, look, I'm really poor. My cousin pays for everything. I was embarrassed. I would not be in the position that I'm in today if people knew how poor I was. And Nate, of course, bleeding heart Nate, he sympathizes with her and he invites her to go to the ballet with him. And he kind of calls off Vanessa as well. He's like, Vanessa, it's fine. Like, you know, whatever. Meanwhile, Chuck and Blair are having copious amounts of hate sex because basically they were enemies and then they had a truce and then the truce kind of fell through and then they started having hate sex and it's like actually so good. Oh, like I love this phase of Chuck and Blair. Like I love when they're not together but they're kind of like in each other's orbits. Like it's just so good. And Blair's way to kind of get past this, because she's like, this needs to end. We cannot keep doing this. Blair's way to get past it is by having a complete cleanse of Chuck, whereas Chuck is like, no, we need to keep going and do it so much that we get sick of each other. So Chuck is trying to get a hold of Blair. Blair is avoiding him. It's hilarious. And it culminates in everyone essentially ending up at the ballet. Colin has actually quit his post as professor so he can be with Serena, who looks stunning. Serena in this scene, Serena in this dress, stunning, absolutely gorgeous. And Vanessa rocks up because after Vanessa found that evidence, she was basically like to Juliet, like, I don't care if you've had a change of heart, I'm still going after Serena. And so Vanessa goes to the ballet to approach the Dean of Columbia with proof that Serena was exchanging sex for grades and is sleeping with Colin. And everyone is there, everyone's surrounding the Dean, and the gang steps in with a classic Gossip Girl takedown. Now, this takedown scene is absolutely iconic. I love this scene so much. So the final confrontation happens at this ballet and Blair publicly exposes Juliet, essentially flipping the narrative and saving Serena's reputation as well. Vanessa has like a USB and Blair's like, puts the USB in her champagne. Love that. And she's like, it was actually me on the photos. Because like now that the USB is in the champagne, no one can prove anything. And it's just a really funny scene because then Chuck gets involved and they're all lying. And Juliet's like, they're all lying.
You tried to destroy my friendship with Blair, my reputation, my academic career.
You failed every time, and now it's time for you to go.
I'm trying to.
He's talking about Columbia.
You don't belong there anyway.
Anyway, great episode. Just love it. Just love it. And I love the takedown of Julia. And the gang is basically like, you need to leave. And she's like, I will. And they're like, no, you need to leave Columbia. Oh, so good. I love this episode because it really pushes beyond the petty drama into something like a little bit disturbing, you know, revenge plot, blackmail, like secret cameras, raising the stakes a little bit. So yeah, love this episode. Moving on to number 7. Season 3, episode 11, The Treasure of Serena, Madre. Now, this is the most iconic Thanksgiving episode in Gossip Girl. Off the bat, the thing that I really love about this episode, so this episode is super, super well known, super famous, but something I noticed while rewatching this episode for this video is that all of the tones in this episode are so autumnal and so warm and earthy and just really feel like Thanksgiving. Like, this episode has such a warm feel to it. The styling of this episode is just phenomenal. Serena is seeing Trip Vanderbilt, who is a married congressman and Nate's cousin, insisting that their relationship is real, even as everyone around her, Blair included, can see that this is just a disaster waiting to happen. He's promised to leave his wife for her, but the whole thing is just sus as. And throughout the episode, their dynamic becomes increasingly uncomfortable as Serena's kind of forced to confront the fact that she is repeating the same toxic patterns that her mother has experienced, and also like that she's the other woman and that, you know, her and Trip are not in love. Like this whole thing, like, Serena, what were you thinking? Like, this was so bad of Serena. Anyway, Blair finds a pregnancy test and is immediately so worried because she's like, oh my God, my mum is pregnant. So she's kind of going crazy trying to prove that her mother is pregnant. And then Vanessa and her anti-establishment mother are fighting. So Dan invites them to have Thanksgiving at the Vanderwoodson / Humphrey residence because they're having like this massive Thanksgiving situation. And Rufus also tries to surprise Lily by inviting her mother Cece to Thanksgiving, but Cece is just kind of there for the drama, and Cece is just like, Lily and Cece have a very tenuous relationship, so when Cece rocks up, Lily's like, hey mother. Anyway, love it. And Serena has told her mother that her and Trip are going to be working in soup kitchens on Thanksgiving because Serena is working for Trip. So that's the other element. It's like he's a married congressman, cousin of Nate, and he's her boss because she's working for him. Anyway, so she tells her mum that they're going to be volunteering in soup kitchens over Thanksgiving to kind of cover up the fact that she doesn't want to be home, like, because she's going to sneak off with Trip. Anyway, Serena's mum, Lily, actually runs into Trip's wife, Maureen, and is like, oh my gosh, can you tell your husband to, like, not be, like, you know, can you tell your husband to let my daughter come home for Thanksgiving? Serena told me that they're going to be, you know, at the soup kitchens, and, you know, wouldn't it be better if all of you just came to our house for Thanksgiving, and that way I can see my daughter on Thanksgiving? Now, Trip's wife, Maureen, is like, say what? Like, Lily totally puts her foot in it here, and Maureen is like, yeah, I think we can come to Thanksgiving at your house, because now Maureen obviously knows that there is something going on between Serena and Trip. And of course, everything collides at Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone is there. Secrets come out, tensions explode, and no one leaves unscathed. It results in one of the most famous Gossip Girl scenes of all time, set to the backdrop of What You Say by Jason Derulo. It's like Lily finds out that Serena's having an affair with Trip at the dinner table. It's like, what you say? She like gets up and leaves. Blair accuses her mother of being pregnant. What you say? And then Vanessa has a fight with her mum. What you say? Rufus finds out that Lily has been lying to him. It's so good. It's so good. It's such a good episode. It's chaos, but it's perfection.
And I want pie.
Cheers. It is peak ensemble cast chaos, multiple storylines colliding together in a super satisfying and well done scene. Absolutely love it. Coming in at number 6, we have 17 Candles, which is season 1, episode 8. This episode immediately follows the episode where Blair actually lost her virginity to Chuck in the back of his limo, moments after her and Nate broke up. The episode starts in a church and is so vibey and moody, like it's kind of showing scenes from the church. There's church music playing in the background, and Blair is in the confessional confessing to her sins, and she really regrets her actions, you know, dancing in a burlesque club, sleeping with Chuck, and she asks the priest if he will grant her the birthday wish of Nate getting back together with her, because it's her birthday and all she wants for her birthday is to get back together with Nate. As she leaves the church, looking like an absolute icon, by the way, she like puts her glasses on, she's like strutting past the church, Chuck's limo pulls up beside her and he tries to coax her in, because even though like Chuck is meant to be this like, you know, one-time only guy, and she's like, oh my God, Chuck is never gonna mention it again. He is actually obsessed with Blair after this situation. So he's trying to like coax her into the limo. She is not interested in him. She tells him to forget anything ever happened.
Go away, Chuck. I've been given orders practically from God himself to avoid you.
Nate is struggling with his own issues, as the night before, his father actually got arrested for possession of drugs, which resulted in more charges of fraud and embezzlement. So his family is really going through it. And with this scandal looming over his family, it really puts in jeopardy the business deal that is currently going down between Eleanor Waldorf and Nate's dad, because they have this business deal going on. And now that Nate's dad's been arrested, Eleanor's trying to pull the plug on the business deal. So in order to keep Eleanor involved in this deal, Nate's family really put a lot of pressure on him to give Blair his family engagement ring, like family heirloom ring, to kind of manipulate Blair and therefore Eleanor into staying like with Nate. And Nate really doesn't want to do this. Like, he and Blair are broken up. He does not want to get back together, but his family are really pressuring him to get back together with her. So of course, Nate, not wanting to let down his family, calls Blair and says, you know, have we been a little too hasty with the breakup? And Blair is of course over the moon, and she hangs up from Nate, and then she calls up the jeweler, because every year on her birthday she puts on hold a bunch of pieces at the jeweler for her birthday, and the diamond necklace has been purchased. So she's like, oh my god, he's got me the necklace, we're getting back together, like everything is amazing. And her birthday party is of course the emotional climax of the episode, where everything she hoped would make her feel special at the party does the complete opposite. Nate is nowhere to be seen. Basically, he rocks up to the party, he runs into Jenny outside the party, and he just can't go in. He can't go through with this scheme from his parents to essentially manipulate Blair into staying with him by giving her the family engagement ring. So because he runs into Jenny outside the party, they decide to just go on a walk together and talk. And so he doesn't go into the party. And while he's at the party, Blair is waiting for him. She's just kind of like looking for him everywhere. Meanwhile, Chuck is telling her, you know, it's over. Nate is not coming. I guarantee he's not going to call you at midnight, which is their tradition. Apparently the tradition is that Nate calls Blair at midnight. And Chuck's like, I guarantee he's not going to call you. He's just doing this because his family needs him to. And Blair's like, no, that's not the case. That wouldn't happen. Meanwhile, Serena and Vanessa kind of clash over Dan, because this is right at the start of Serena and Dan's relationship, and she's just getting to know Vanessa, and they have this really cringy Guitar Hero showdown, which is just so ridiculous and so of the era of this show. They're like, and the scene goes on for so long as well. They're like playing Guitar Hero, and Serena's like, yeah, like really getting into the Guitar Hero. It's so cringy. Anyway, by the end of the episode, Blair essentially realizes that her and Nate are over. He does not call her at midnight. She is devastated, and she's basically been trying to feel loved by people who can't give her what she needs or what she deserves. And she was hopeful that Nate would still call her at midnight, but he doesn't. And the episode actually ends with Chuck presenting Blair with the diamond necklace, and they start kissing, also not realizing that Serena actually sees them kissing as well. And Serena is gagged because Serena's like, oh gosh. The reason I love this episode is because it really humanizes Blair in a way that few episodes do, which shows the vulnerability behind her perfection, but it's also just a really fun episode. Coming in at number 5, we have War at the Roses, season 4, episode 7. So this is Gossip Girl at its pettiest, and I would say it's best. So this is actually the episode that comes before the other season 4 episode I was telling you about. Juliet doesn't live here anymore. And I absolutely just love these 2 episodes, but this is my favorite of the 2 episodes, and that's why it comes in at number 5. This episode begins with Blair finishing the invitations for her 20th birthday party. And of course, Blair being Blair, she has invited, you know, this crazy esteemed prestigious guest list, including the faculty of Columbia, her college, which also includes Colin, the professor that Serena has a crush on. And this is at the stage where Serena and Colin are having meetings in his office because they're trying to get to know each other without crossing the line. And like I said before, I really, really liked Serena and Colin together, and I'm sad that they didn't actually explore this a bit more, but whatever. Nate and Serena facilitate a formal treaty between Blair and Chuck, because the episodes before this, Blair and Chuck have been at complete war because they had their breakup, and this whole situation occurred with Chuck and this girl Eva. Anyway, Chuck and Blair have been at war, causing absolute chaos in each other's lives. So Serena and Nate take it into their own hands and create this formal treaty, and it's so over the top. It's actually so funny. The whole thing is hilarious because they literally have lawyers and a stenographer, and they get it notarized. It's all legit and official, and they're talking about different territories, and the whole thing is so ridiculous. And they're like, oh, you can have this part of the Upper East Side, but I want this part. And it's so ridiculous, but part of the reason why I love it. And the meeting concludes to them coming to a formal truce, but Blair asked to discuss a further matter with Chuck in private. Juliet, who is of course trying to get in with Serena so she can take her down, uses Gossip Girl to track her down, and she notices Serena carrying a bag and asks if it's a present for Blair, and Serena's like, no, it's actually for my professor. professor who I have a crush on. And this is at the stage where Juliet does not know that the professor Serena has a crush on is her cousin Colin. But Juliet is, of course, like, this works for her scheme. So she's like, oh my God, tell me. Tell me, because like Juliet's trying to ruin Serena's life. And Serena's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. And she's like, but you know, he is going to be at Blair's party. And Juliet's like, well, I can come to Blair's party and kind of act as a buffer for you. And she's like, okay. Anyway, Blair's party rolls around and Serena actually ends up going with Nate, who is going to be her buffer. And of course, Colin is watching Serena and Nate interact and he's getting super jealous. And Serena and Colin end up going upstairs. Nate ends up letting it slip to Juliet that Serena is seeing Colin. And Juliet is like, Serena is seeing Colin because like that's her cousin. He's a professor. So now she's like, oh my God, my scheme to try and ruin Serena's life is also going to come at the cost of ruining Colin's life, who is bankrolling her life. Because like Colin is super rich, Juliet is super poor. So she's like, oh my gosh, like I could ruin Serena's life, but I would also have to ruin my cousin's life. Like, what to do? Outside of this, Dan and Eric have also tried to come up with a bit of a scheme to get Blair and Chuck to start fighting so that Chuck will help them sneak Jenny back into the city, because basically it's Rufus and Lily's 1-year wedding anniversary. They want Jenny to be there, but Blair banned Jenny from the city because in season 3, Jenny and Chuck slept together. It's crazy. Anyway, so they plant this fake rumor on Gossip Girl, but Blair and Chuck don't believe it because they have their truth. But Dan manages to end up finding something else that he is going to do to sabotage Blair in order to turn these two against each other. So the party is going well until Dan's plan for revenge comes to fruition and he exposes Blair's darkest hour. A video of her drunkenly singing karaoke plays throughout the whole party, and she's singing and she's like, stand by your man. Anyway, it's hilarious. Stand by your man. Hey. No. And she immediately blames Chuck because Chuck was the only one that knew about this video. This was actually the part of the treaty that she asked to discuss with him in private, was that this video never gets to see the light of day. And so she immediately blames Chuck. This kind of like ruins the party because Blair is like humiliated, and then like she like shoves someone who falls over and then they get chocolate dumped on their head, and basically the party is basically in shambles and Blair is super embarrassed. And after the party she's kind of going around the house turning off the lights and she's like humiliated, and Chuck is still there and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I just wanted to say that the treaty is over. And he like rips the paper super dramatically, and then they start making out, and then he like grabs her and props her up onto the piano and they start making out, and it's just so juicy because like I just remember watching this, and after their breakup in season 3, I was like, oh my God, are they ever going to get back together? And then they were like so at each other's throats for the entire start of season 4. And then this happened and it was just so delicious. So I love this episode. It's sharp, it's ridiculous, and completely character-driven chaos. Exactly what the show does best. Moving on to number 4, and that is High Society. Back to season 1, episode 10. This episode opens with the cotillion rehearsals where the tension is already building. Blair is actually thriving. She is finally getting over her breakup with Nate. Her and Chuck are still kind of sleeping together on the side, but she's really just unbothered as opposed to how she was when her and Nate first broke up. And she's really excited to attend cotillion with a prince and insists she's fully moved on from Nate, and she's actually having the New York Times follow her around for the night and do a night out with Blair Waldorf. So she is pumped. But across the room, Nate admits to Chuck that he's actually really starting to miss Blair, especially now that she actually seems happier without him, which is so toxic because he, like, I love Nate, but he was such a bad boyfriend to Blair. He cheated on her with her best friend, told her best friend that he loved her while he was still with Blair. Anyway, just awful. But now he wants her back, of course, because she's super happy. And of course, Chuck, who now has a massive thing for Blair, is like, no, you shouldn't. Anyway, Dan reluctantly attends rehearsals for Serena, mocking the ball as outdated and elitist, of course, which immediately puts him on Serena's grandmother, Cece's radar. And when Serena introduces them, Cece wastes no time in making it clear that she disapproves of Dan, planting the kind of first seeds of conflict, because Cece really is like, she's meddlesome. We love Cece. Meanwhile, Blair's carefully curated world does start to crack. After rehearsals, Nate shows up unexpectedly at her house while she is like mid makeout sesh with Chuck, and he like comes to her and he's like, hey, like I just put on my jumper and I noticed like you sewed your heart on my sleeve and I just think that we should go to cotillion together. And Blair is originally like, no, and then after he shows her the heart on his sleeve, she's like, she kind of softens. She's like, okay, we can go to cotillion together. You know, they'd always pictured going to cotillion together, but she insists that they are going just as friends. And Chuck overhears this whole conversation because he is upstairs and he is super jealous.
After what you pulled on my birthday, the only thing we should be doing together is moving on.
Look, I haven't worn the sweater in like forever, and I just pulled it out today and I found this.
At the same time as this, Jenny is super obsessed with the glamour of cotillion. She's too young to go to cotillion, but she really, really wants to be involved. But she's clashing with her parents because her mum, who's just come back from Hudson, has some sort of art gallery thing on the same night. So Jenny can't go to cotillion as a volunteer because of this thing that her mum has, and she's super pissed off about it. As the ball approaches, Cece really tightens her control. Serena was originally not going to do cotillion, but Cece is like, oh, but I'm sick. Like, this is my wish, is to see my granddaughter do cotillion. And so Serena, of course, agrees. But Cece is also trying to sabotage Serena and Dan because she does not want Serena to go to cotillion with Dan. She even bribes Rufus to try and keep Dan away from Serena. The night of cotillion is where everything unravels, and I just love it. And I will say, Serena's gold dress is just gorgeous. Blair's dress, what is that? What is that? I love that they've got them in gold and silver, but Blair's dress with a big bow is just ill-fitting, and Leighton Meester is so stunning, and I just feel like this dress was not it. And I love Leighton Meester. Blair is my favorite. I just wish they'd dressed her in a cuter dress because she's so gorgeous. Dan arrives to support Serena, but after learning about Cece's schemes, the two of them kind of briefly fall out because Serena takes Cece's side. But Serena is then blindsided when her presentation speech is secretly rewritten to be something that doesn't reflect her at all, which kind of shows her how little control she's had in this whole situation. During the ball, tensions explode because Nate publicly attacks Carter Bazin because Chuck was telling Nate that Blair was seeing Carter Bazin to make Nate riled up and jealous so that Nate would make a scene and ruin Blair's night so that Blair would go back to Chuck. And yeah, Nate gets really pissed off and he punches Carter Bazin, and Blair gets really upset because her dress gets ripped. And of course, Blair is furious that this whole situation has occurred. Outside, Serena finally confronts Lily, questioning whether she's ever been allowed to truly be herself. And this conversation with her mother makes her mum really realize that she has been trying to control Serena, and you can see Lily really soften in this moment, and I love this scene between them. In the end, Serena and Dan reconcile, and Dan comes back to cotillion, and they just look so happy, and he picks her up bridal style, and he's swinging her around, and Lily's kind of watching on from above, and it's so cute. While Blair ends up choosing Nate, and she actually tells Nate oh my gosh, you punching Carter Bazin was actually so hot. So Blair and Nate actually rekindle things and end up sleeping together, and Chuck kind of sees them go into a room together, and Chuck is so upset because obviously his plan completely backfired. I love this episode so much. I love it. The glitz, the glam. It's a perfect storm of everything that I love about this show. Every character is forced to confront who they are versus who they're expected to be, and I just love it. Moving on to number 3, There Might Be Blood. Season 2, episode 9. This is the Gorilla Fashion Show episode. I love this episode so much. So this episode kicks off with Jenny and Agnes racing against the clock to pull off their Gorilla Fashion Show. Jenny is all in, desperately sewing things together. She really wants to prove herself, but there's tension already as Jenny admits Nate has been avoiding her since their kiss in the previous episode. Jenny and Nate not being explored as a proper couple in season 2. Devastating. I think that's why I rated this episode so high, because I love the Jenny and Nate storyline here. I love it. Meanwhile, Serena and Blair meet with a Yale donor to help secure Blair's future at Yale, but things quickly go off the rails because, of course, the donor is far more interested in Serena because Serena has it easy. Everyone loves Serena, and they just do not even give Blair a second glance at all. And that is until Serena offers up Blair to essentially babysit the 15-year-old daughter of the donor, and she's like, don't worry, Blair will take her for a movie so you can go out tonight. And Blair's like, oh my God. And yeah, so this 15-year-old that seemed super innocent and nerdy is like, oh my God, thank God, I'm finally alone for the night. Now that I don't have to be with my parents, I'm gonna lose my virginity. And Blair is like, oh my God, Serena, what have you signed me up for? As the night unfolds, everything starts to spiral because as Jenny and Agnes are leaving for the fashion show, Nate and Dan rock up, and Dan is like, oh my God, what are you doing? You cannot do this. And he's like, I'm gonna get Dad dobber. And Jenny is like to Nate, like, please help me. Like, you have to help me with this. And Nate agrees. So Nate jumps in the car, and as Nate, Jenny, and Agnes are driving away in the car, Dan and Rufus like run after them. It's so dramatic. So Nate ultimately chooses to support Jenny because Jenny is planning to do this guerrilla fashion show at a gala that is actually honoring Lily and Bart. Blair's situation with this girl that she's babysitting, her name is Emma. So this situation basically escalates because this girl Emma runs off to a nightclub because she's so desperate to lose her virginity, forcing Blair, Serena, and Chuck to track her down before things can spiral out of control. What starts as kind of this damage control situation actually turns into a rare moment of empathy from Blair, because what ends up happening is while they're at the nightclub trying to track down this girl Emma, they actually see Emma's mum having an affair, and Blair is like, yes, thank you universe, blackmail material, I don't care anymore. And Serena is like, Blair, like, you need to look after this girl, like, don't let her do this. So Blair and Chuck end up finding this girl and kind of saving her from the situation where she was about to lose her virginity to a random loser. And then we go to the gala where Lily and Bart are being honored, and in the middle of the high society charity event, Jenny launches her fashion show.
Funded the construction of clinics and hospitals in Equatorial Guinea, Sri Lanka. My apologies, there seems to be some sort of technical difficulty.
The lights go out, and then all of a sudden, all of the models come out wearing Jenny's dresses, which I will say are really ugly. Like, they are so ugly. I'm so sorry. Like, what? Oh my gosh. Anyway, they come out, but the fashion show is a major success. Nate is watching on, so proud of Jenny, and Vanessa, Dan, and Rufus all rock up to the fashion show as well. And there is a blast on Gossip Girl of Nate actually kissing Jenny just before the fashion show. So Dan literally punches Nate, and he's like, we let you live with us. You need to get your shit and get out. So yeah, Nate and Dan end up having a huge fight, but Jenny's fashion show was a huge success. Honestly, the reason I've got this episode so high is because I just love the fashion show so much. It's so good. I feel like this episode is really a turning point episode where ambition, rebellion, and the consequences collide, especially for Jenny, making her full transformation into someone willing to risk everything to go after her dreams. Coming in at number 2, we have the season 2 finale, season 2, episode 25, The Goodbye Gossip Girl. This episode opens on graduation day. Our gang are finally graduating from high school, and it should be a fresh start because they're like, Gossip Girl doesn't cover people in college, so we are finally going to be free. But of course, tensions are already high. Serena is dealing with the fallout of her recent arrest and growing media attention, while Blair is focused on closing this chapter and stepping into the future because, you know, her and Chuck have been playing this will they won't they game for this whole season. And the episode prior, Chuck literally said to Serena that he loves Blair, so of course Serena told Blair that, and Blair is like, oh my gosh, like, he loves me, but he's been unable to say it to Blair yet. Anyway, at Constance Billard, the dynamics are already shifting. Jenny declares that the old hierarchy is over because now that their batch are graduating, Jenny will kind of move up in the ranks. But Blair is like, no, we're just going to choose the next queen. The minions push back, turning it into a competition. Basically, whoever brings the minions the juiciest piece of gossip before midnight at Nate's party will become queen the following year. During the graduation ceremony, they're all sitting there wearing their graduation caps. And of course, like, Serena doesn't have a graduation cap. She just has like a clip in her hair. So random. Everything is derailed when a massive Gossip Girl blast goes out to the entire graduating class, labeling each of them in such a brutal way. And Serena immediately declares war on Gossip Girl because she is determined to take her down. Because I think she's like, Serena, after today, you're officially irrelevant. Ooh. So Serena is really digging to try and find out who Gossip Girl is. So she sends out a blast to Gossip Girl, and Eric's boyfriend, Jonathan, his phone goes off right when Serena sends the blast. They're like, oh my God, Jonathan, you're Gossip Girl? And Jonathan's like, no, I just hacked into her servers, but look at all of the tips that Gossip Girl is sent. Jenny is able to then use this as her secret because she sees this really juicy piece of information that she is going to use to become queen. However, at Nate's graduation party, Blair and Chuck are together, and it's like a really steamy scene, and Blair is kind of like undressing herself, and she's kind of coaxing Chuck into finally confessing his feelings for her. And she's like, you know, tell me you love me. And right before he's about to tell her he loves her, another Gossip Girl blast goes out, and Gossip Girl is essentially blasting the secrets of everyone, like every single secret she had left. And one of the secrets was that Blair slept with Chuck's uncle Jack. Ew. I'm sorry, the fact that, okay, like in Gossip Girl, Jack is like 40, Blair would have been 17 or 18. I know that they just needed another reason to create drama between Chuck and Blair, but the fact that they were like, Blair and Jack slept together, I was like, disgusting. Anyway, Chuck is of course devastated, and he like storms out, and the whole party is a mess. After that, Serena goes to a bar and she messages Gossip Girl and she's like, meet me here. And the first person that walks in is Dan, and she's like, oh my God, Dan, are you Gossip Girl? And I wonder if the writers knew at this point already that Dan was Gossip Girl. They tried to retcon in the finale that, you know, he did. Anyway, Dan's like, no, I just like tracked your location, like, and I just followed you here. And then everyone else rocks up as well. Like all of the graduating class rocks up, and they get another Gossip Girl blast while Dan is staying there, mind you. So don't know, maybe he scheduled it. And the final Gossip Girl blast is basically like, I'm coming to college with you. You're all Gossip Girl. I couldn't do this without you. And the very, very end of the episode actually ends with Chuck kind of leaning up against his limo, waiting for Blair, because Blair, like, they broke up and Blair's devastated. And Blair goes over to Chuck and he's like, where have you been? Like, you've been everywhere. You've been all over Europe. And he was like, yeah, I like went to France to get your favorite macarons, and I went here to get your favorite tights. And he tells her he loves her over and over and over again. And honestly, I loved this episode so much. It was just perfect graduation episode.
I was in Paris, but only to get your favorite macaroons from Pierre Hermé.
And Germany?
To pick up your favorite folk stockings.
What are you doing here then?
You were right. I love you too.
Perfect tie-up of the high school storyline, and perfect way to have Blair and Chuck finally get together. It was just so perfect. It's a chaotic and emotional finale where everything explodes, relationships, identities, power, proving that no one ever really escapes Gossip Girl, but it also has that happy ending as well. I just love it. I love it. That brings me to my final episode, episode number 1, the best episode of Gossip Girl. I feel like many of you have probably guessed what this episode is by now because I haven't said it yet. That is season 1, episode 7, VICTROLA. Oh, I love this episode. I love this episode so much. This episode is peak Gossip Girl, and honestly, like the turning point of season 1. Like, this is the episode where Gossip Girl became Gossip Girl. It opens with a vibey flash forward of Blair dancing at VICTROLA, but we don't know that it's Blair because it's kind of like a girl from the back and she's like dancing really sexy. So we don't know that it's Blair. We just see a girl dancing at a burlesque club. Then we rewind 2 days earlier to show how we kind of get there. Chuck is trying to prove himself to his dad, Bart, by pitching that his dad's company buys this burlesque club, VICTROLA, as a high-end burlesque club, while Blair is all in on Nate, fully planning her future with Nate after hearing about the Vanderbilt ring, because apparently Nate's mum was telling Blair's mum about the family heirloom engagement ring, again because Nate's dad was trying to sign a business deal with Blair's mum. The whole thing is very, very icky. Like the fact that they were using the family heirloom ring to try and sign this deal with Blair's mum. Anyway, Jenny is also sitting on a major secret because the episode before at the masquerade party, Nate confessed that he still had feelings for Serena, thinking that Jenny was Serena, and tried to kiss her. And Blair, who hates secrets, eventually manages to kind of get the truth out of Jenny about this and is absolutely devastated. So like, she was planning her future with Nate. Meanwhile, at the masquerade party, Nate was confessing his love to who he thought was Serena, but was actually Jenny. Meanwhile, Nate is also struggling because he actually catches his dad buying drugs as well. And when Nate confronts his dad about this, his dad just completely brushes it off and is like, oh, it was just a one-time thing. But everything kind of comes to a head because we are then at this dinner between Blair, her mom, Nate's parents, and Nate, and like Nate's parents are just fawning over Blair and Nate, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're such a cute couple. Blair is just sitting there knowing that Nate confessed his love for Serena, so Blair and Nate are so awkward, and the parents are all fawning over them, and Nate's dad is definitely like coked up as well because he's like, oh, and give Blair the ring so she can try it on, and Blair's like, oh, like no thank you, and Eleanor's like, yeah, give her the ring, and Nate's dad's like, yeah, give her the ring, and Blair's like, I'm all good, and Nate's like, dad, just leave it, and he's like, just put the ring on, and it's so awkward. Blair puts the ring on. It's super uncomfortable. And then Nate is like, Dad, let's like go and smoke a cigar. Nate and his dad go downstairs and Nate is like, what the heck are you doing, Dad? Like, you are like acting crazy. And then Nate's dad literally punches him because he's all coked up, and the police see this and arrest Nate's dad. And Nate is like, check his pockets. And Blair is watching all of this from a window up above. And basically Nate tries to get into a limo because Chuck is hosting a party at Victrola to celebrate his dad kind of going along with his business idea. And Blair is like, where the heck are you going, Nate? And he's like, I'm going to Chuck's club, like I promised him. And Blair's like, I literally just watched your dad get arrested, like why don't you go and deal with that? And they kind of have a bit of a fight, and Blair's like, you know, what have you been doing? Like I just found out that you confessed your love for Serena, like maybe we shouldn't be together, like go and deal with your dad. And Blair then instead gets in the car and goes to Victrola, to Chuck's party. And this is where the episode just is absolutely iconic. This is like my favorite scene of TV. Like I love the Victrola scene so much. So she gets to Victrola and Chuck is like, where's Nate? And Blair is like, I think we just broke up. And so her and Chuck are sitting at Victrola, and while she's watching the dancers on stage at the burlesque club, Blair's like, I've got moves. And he's like, you're not going to get up there. And she's like, I know what you're doing. And then she's like, you know what? I'm going to go up there. So she literally gets up on stage and begins this like striptease dance. She like takes off her headband and then her dress, and she's doing this dance and she's like loving it. And Chuck is watching from the audience, like absolutely gobsmacked. He has never seen this side of Blair before, and he is just watching in awe. And one of the people that works at the club goes up to Chuck and he's like, who's the girl? And he's like, I have no idea. It's so good. Then the episode ends with Chuck and Blair in the limo, and Blair's like, oh, thanks for giving me a lift home. And she's still in her nightie, and he's like, no worries. And then she leans over and kisses him, and then Sum 41 starts playing this song, so iconic, I want you to know. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, and it's so good. And then they start making out, and they're in the back of his limo, and it's so good. It's such a good episode. And that is where the episode ends. And that is my favorite episode of Gossip Girl. So there we have it. Those are my top 10 all-time Gossip Girl episodes. We have chaos, scandal, and emotional damage. And I really, really hope you enjoyed that. You know, some of my Gossip Girl episode opinions may be controversial. Some of them may be, you know, like what everyone... I feel like Victor Victrola is a universally loved episode of Gossip Girl. For me, it's my favorite. But please tell me in the comments down below, what is your favorite episode of Gossip Girl? What is your favorite character of Gossip Girl? Or what is like the most unhinged plot line? If you liked this video, let me know, and I will do the top 10 worst episodes of Gossip Girl, because you may have noticed that in this list, there was not a single episode from season 5, because I hate season 5. Like there are some okay episodes in there, but there are so many doozies. But yeah, if you like it, let me know. I'll do my least favorite episodes. But thank you so much for watching. If you want more videos like this, please definitely subscribe. Please like, please comment. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.